Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now, on this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Now, the controversy around the adoption of placeholder candidates as running mates seem not to be settled as stakeholders continue to weigh in on the issue. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, reacting to the issue, had described the adoption of placeholders as a Nigerian invention, which has no provision in the Commission's laws. Now, parties had, in a last-minute rush to submit names of running mates, adopted these placeholders, whom they explained were holding the positions, pending when they find a suitable running mate. Now, this was in order to meet up with the June 17th deadline set up by the electoral umpire for all political parties to send in the names of their standard bearers and their partners, following the conclusion of the primaries. The ruling All Progressive Congress had adopted Ibrahim Masari and the Labour Party adopting former presidential aide Doyin Okukbe as placeholders, expectedly to announce a replacement soon. Now, with INEC's position on placeholders, however, what will be the fate of these parties who have already adopted one? Joining us to discuss these issues, we have Ose Aneni right here in the studio, a public affairs commentator, as well as Emmanuel Osemeka, and he's also a political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
All right. At this moment, we will take a quick break, and after which the program commences proper. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Now, let's get into the discussion proper. So, Mr. Emmanuel, the placeholders, I mean, like, what is the idea? Well, we know the general idea behind it, but what actually is the idea of having a placeholder? What does it entail?
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. I think basically, we're very good at copying a whole lot of stuff from America and all that, but we're not pretty much good at executing what we copy. I think that word placeholder, emanated from the U.S. system, where, because basically the word placeholder is a position that is held by someone in government, sort of a reward system that the U.S. Normally uses. But I know that within the context of Nigeria, we don't have it anywhere in our constitution. We don't have it anywhere in our electoral jurisprudence. However, most likely it came into the lexicon, from one of the supposed placeholder when he says, "I'm just here as a stopgap."
Okay.
You realize critically that the 2023 general elections, especially the presidential election, it's quite dynamic and completely different from what we used to have. So this is like a cat and mouse game, like a chess game between the ruling All Progressive Congress and, of course, the other opposition parties who are critically taking a cursory look at what and who the candidate of APC will choose. That will determine if who and where they would go to. So we're looking at the issue of Northwest or Northeast, given that the People's Democratic Party candidate is from the Northeast, and I mean, he's a political gladiator, and he has also chosen somebody from the South. And now you have a presidential candidate of one of the major opposition candidate party from the Southeast. You have another one from the Northwest. Then you have the ruling party from the Southwest. So it's a mixed bag. The politicians are very good at chess games. So for me, I think it's clearly a chess game.
Okay.
They're just taking their time, given that also that there's a window for replacement. So they're just playing a game, given that they have that window. Other than that, I mean. All
right, Mr. Ose, let me come to you. It seems like every election cycle we have new vocabulary coming into Nigerian politics. I mean, like this is still on this issue of a placeholder. One of, let's say, the major opposition party, that's the PDP, have named a substantive running mate. The ruling party named a placeholder, another opposition party named another placeholder. So is it only the PDP that's got its house in order, or?
An interesting question, Ibrahim. I want to reject what you just said about the PDP having a substantive candidate. We have a candidate.
Okay.
We don't have a fixed, permanent, temporary. We have a candidate.
I see.
That's what the law says.
Okay.
And then when you hear about the placeholders, it's interesting because one of the things the new Electoral Amendment Act sought to do was to cure this reckless substitution that political parties used to do. So they put in a clause that, unless you die or unless the candidate himself withdraws and submits a letter to the party and to INEC, you cannot change them. And what you see political parties doing is an abuse of the law. Let's not, call it anything else. It's not chess games, it's not politicking. Okay. It's exploiting loopholes within the law in a cynical manner that,
Which I don't think is illegal, is it?
It's cynical.
Okay.
Which defeats the purpose of the law. And I don't want us to sit and, applaud it. It's not brinksmanship. It's not smartness. It's an abuse of the spirit of the law, and it should be condemned. So that is my position about it. Okay. We've had a lot of time. We had time between the selection of candidates in primaries and the submission of the names to INEC. So there was more than enough time to go around the country to consult with stakeholders. But what politicians in some of these parties, I don't want to mention names, I will, the APC and Labour, have done is fall foul of that provision. And instead of being penalized, which I think they should be, they've put in placeholders. Now, the danger of this, remember I said the placeholder candidate has to write that he's withdrawing.
Yes.
I don't know if you've been following the issue with the Senate president and his placeholder.
Exactly.
Who has refused to withdraw. And legally, in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of INEC, he is the candidate because he took part in the primaries and he was validly elected and he won. And he cannot be compelled to withdraw. So you see the danger of this thing. When you abuse processes, sometimes it comes back to bite you immediately. But I think even more insidiously, it's that it doesn't come back to bite you. There are no penalties, and then it now becomes tradition and precedent set. And I want us to reject it and push against it and condemn those who have done it so that our electoral system is the better for it.
All right, well, I can see shaking his head to that. But let's go down to the legality of the matter.
Absolutely.
INEC says they do not recognize placeholders, that it has no place in our constitution, it has no place in the commission's guidelines or rules. So what does that mean for the parties that actually have these placeholders?
I think we're all crying more than the buried in this whole scenario.
Okay.
In the first instance, I want to fault my brother, Ose.
I see.
The issue of the Senate President, senatorial tickets, and of course the gentleman whom they are, have this higi-haga concerning who is and who is not. It's completely different from the issue of choosing a vice presidential running mate.
Okay.
Because the vice presidential running mate does not go through any electioneering process. It's by appointment by the candidate, haven't gone through, all kinds of consultation within his political party and wherever he feels or deems necessary. And you must also understand and appreciate the fact that Nigeria is a plural society. And in the bid to balance and to also ensure that you have your best foot forward within the ticket. So I want to give it to the candidate and of course possibly the political parties. Probably they didn't have enough time to exhaust for consultation, given that a lot of their elections happened. Of course, the PDP primaries took place way ahead of the APC, the Labour Party, the NNPP, and of course the rest of them. That doesn't also mean that PDP has got its house completely in order.
Okay.
It just means that the other parties probably have more consultation to do.
Well, but we have some candidates who have been shouting the mantra from the hills that I have been wanting to do this all my life.
Yes.
And when it comes to the business end of it,
Yes.
it doesn't seem to have applied. Didn't they see that far ahead?
It depends on how you look at it, because the word placeholder, there's no form within the INEC or within the electoral law that is called placeholder. I think we are the ones who are giving the name placeholder because of the explanations that have, that emanated from the choice of the persons that were put forward to meet a particular deadline. And like you clearly mentioned, no law has been broken here. And there's no form called placeholder. INEC has come out to clearly explain that. It is in our analysis that we've used the word placeholder.
We need a name for them. We had to give them a name.
Notwithstanding, because tomorrow, the APC can come out tomorrow and say that they're not changing anybody and they're going to run with who they have. That is their business. So if it works for them, fantastic. It doesn't work for them, that's their business. But for sure, the Labour Party will definitely substitute the person they have there today.
Okay.
They will definitely substitute.
Why?
Because there's been talks between Labour Party, NMPP, PRP, and quite a number of other political parties.
Talks can break down.
That is the reason why you need time to be able to make the best of decisions while this talks is going on.
All right, so the Labour Party seems to have had an excuse for this since they are consulting.
You can call it an excuse, right? But the reality is that when you're going to dislodge a giant, you need to be prayerful. You need to pray very well. You need to look at the house properly to know the weaknesses of the house and know where to enter from. You need to know, okay, how many men do you need to go into the house so that when you get into the house of the strong man, you dislodge him from the house.
Okay.
It's not easy to dislodge a ruling political party. For such a party like APC with 22 governors and, as at last week, 52 senators or thereabout. So you need a whole lot to do that, and that is one of the reasons why the alliance is going. I'm not holding brief for a Labour Party, but this is the news out there.
I was heading to that. I was like,
I'm not a member of any of the political parties. Unlike us, who is there?
So let me come to you now. You talked about legality of issues that the law was skirted. It wasn't broken.
It wasn't
broken.
It wasn't broken. Yeah,
but it was skirted a bit, and you even went as far as use the word abused.
Yes.
All right, but I think, my idea was that the current electoral law was made as ironclad as possible to be able to forestall things like this from people skirting the law, so to speak, or abusing it. So, can we say now that it has failed to do that?
I think, like all amendments, it's a product of our experiences in 2015 and 2019. There were gaps that I sought to fix. One of the most obvious ones was the transmission of results. Should it be manual or electronic? The other was the accreditation process. Should it be manual with a voter register, or should it be with a BVAS system, with a machine that does biometrics? And the Act, to a certain extent, is a marked improvement and will produce much more credible elections than we've seen in 2015 and 2019. So it's a good document, but it's not a perfect one. And my concern, why I spoke so strongly about an abuse of the spirit of the law, is that when you exploit the law like this, you corrupt the taste and tenor of democracy. So, for instance, we can sit here and talk about the PDP tickets. We can talk about Atiku's record. We can talk about Governor Okowa's records. You can talk about what Atiku did when he was vice president. You can talk about what Okowa did when he was governor. You can raise issues. You can challenge him or any of them based on their record, because these are the candidates. You cannot challenge Doyin Okupe because he's a placeholder. He has nothing to offer the ticket. You cannot challenge Masari because he's a placeholder. So citizens who are going to take part in the democratic process are denied that opportunity by cynical politicians who are exploiting loopholes in the law. And that's why I'm condemning. We can sit here, like I've said, and X-ray the PDP ticket. We can say, what does it mean for restructuring? What does it mean for privatization or pensions or tax? But you cannot do that with the APC ticket or the Labour ticket because they have placeholders that are worthless.
And these placeholders can say, I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly.
But again, then you are again corrupting democracy, because everybody knows that Doyin Okupe is not ready to be vice president or president of the Nigeria, God forbid.
But the thing is, these guys didn't raise up their hands and say, pick me. And these guys didn't put themselves there. The party actually selected them, and there was supposed to be a process to that. And they came, and they were selected. So they could wake up one morning and say, my name is there, and I'm staying. I'm not abdicating. I'm not going anywhere. So that means you will have to X-ray those issues with those people.
Exactly.
No, but again, when a vice presidential candidate comes on national TV hours after he's nominated to say, do not be alarmed, I'm not the VP candidate. We will, in due course, elect someone who will run with the candidate. You can't X-ray him. That is the fundamental problem that this thing they've done has caused.
Yeah, but when you say, when he says, I'm not going anywhere, you can actually start doing that.
I would love to do that. I would. If Doyin Okupe is watching this program, please don't resign. I would love to have you as the VP candidate on Labour.
All right. So does this now open the door to a situation whereby we can have a vice presidential candidate that goes through the primary election process himself, that is not actually appointed?
I think that's something we might want to take a look at. But I mean, we copied the presidential system of government from the American system, even though in practice we are not really practicing the presidential.
Yeah, well, we localized it.
Well, I mean, I don't understand what localizing, you know, what we're doing, how localized that is, because there is no prior experience that we're trying to say, okay, this is our own adopted system, therefore it's happened here or there. If you say, oh, we copied from America, then when you copy properly. Okay. It's just like the Chinese. When the Chinese man wants to copy what you're wearing, they will copy it exactly the way it is. They will not change to it. Instead, they will improve it. But ours has not really been an improvement. It's been more like a distortion from what it really is. So the American system is that the presidential candidate starts like 2 years before within the party system. They do their state-by-state electoral process, which is what I also want to see in Nigeria over time. I want the system where the states in Nigeria will begin to throw up this system where the political parties will start from the ward level, the state level, begin to elect the presidential candidates within the parties, and of course they will now have the final elections for the primaries in Abuja. And that's a 2 years a process. And at the end of the day, when the candidate emerges after 2 years, then of course he will choose his own vice presidential candidate. Most often, you see them picking either a sitting governor or one of the persons who contested against them within the political party, given the programs they have either in common or someone they feel complements the ticket. Because you see, the issue of the vice president, it's about complementarity. You want to pick somebody who will complement you. And I want to believe that is the reason why the PDP candidate chose the person he chose as his vice president, because he looked at complementarity. I mean, I read through his explanation why he chose
the thought process
the things that went on in his mind and all that, and also what quite a number of PDP stalwarts were saying why a particular person was not chosen, and all that and all that. But you see, it still goes back to the fact that the political parties, the candidates, it boils down to each individual party and the candidate, and of course what they bring to the table. And I still think, in addition, that you can still dissect the candidate, because at the end of the day, the person that is going to be bashed is the person that is holding the ticket. I mean, look at the government today is Muhammad Buhari's administration. It's not Muhammad Buhari and Yemi Osibanjo's administration. They can say it's Buhari's administration has done this good. They will say it's a bad. So that's what it is about. So, Ose, you can still go ahead.
To talk a little bit about that. You see, the vice presidency has taken a larger importance.
Yeah.
We have seen, maybe because of history, we've seen how vice presidents have come and become, and that sort of importance. And of course, being it's like a given that the vice president is heading the economic team in most administrations. That gives them a very high level of importance.
Yeah.
Still going back to my earlier question, doesn't that make it such a serious business that that person that should be coming as vice president go through a process of being elected? Rather than just riding on the coattails of somebody else?
It's an interesting question. I think, if vice presidents were elected or deputy governors were elected, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just another layer to the process. I don't see how it really cures what we are trying to cure for.
Okay.
I think there is value, like my brother said, in a president who is the commander-in-chief and head of the administration, picking a team of people he's comfortable with. We saw frictions in 1999 to 2003 when we had Atiku and Obasanjo, and there were some frictions there. I think just because we had two very strong personalities, and I don't believe Obasanjo picked Atiku.
Okay.
It was. They were brought together. It was a joint ticket in the true sense of the word. And I think it would be exacerbated if, as a vice president, I win my election, and I'm not serving at the pleasure of the president.
Okay.
Then it would give, I think, room for a lot more friction and conflict within any administration.
Okay.
So I'm happy for the president of the party to elect. I just think that it should be done in a manner that doesn't sort of like leave a sour taste in the mouth.
All right. Well, so the thing is, now let's talk about how complete the current tickets that we have actually are. PDP has a balance. They have a presidential candidate, a vice presidential candidate. And with looking at the various divides or the various different aspects of Nigeria, just like you pointed out earlier, you have somebody from the south and somebody from the northeast, and of course, and religion is actually balanced there. The other parties seem to be in a pickle, considering this, most especially, well, let's just talk about it, most especially the ruling party, having a Muslim from the southwest and trying to balance it out with getting somebody from the north. Now, we're not even talking about which side of the north now, just the north, getting somebody that can balance that ticket. How much of a juggling act is that going to be?
Thank you very much. I mean, this is also a very fantastic question, because I think this is one of the reasons why you have this debacle of placement or placeholder. Today, with the ruling party APC ticket, you have Bola Ahmed Tinubu from Southwest, Muslim. You have Kabiru Masari from the Northwest, Muslim. So I don't want to, I'm not in their mind. I don't know what the final decision of the candidate will be eventually.
Okay.
But if I want to think like a core politician, a Nigerian politician, it's about winning. Many of them think about winning. We are not like the United States, where you can pick even somebody from your own state, where you come from. People can wake up tomorrow and choose, okay, I'm no longer from this state. I think it's only in Borno State that I've seen that, where people change local government at will. You can be from Marte this month or this year, and next year you can decide to come from Konduga or come from Goza and all that. So there's fluidity, so for example, the former president of the United States ran for president as a candidate from New York. When he ran in 2019 for his second term that he lost, he ran from Florida. So these are some of the fluidities you have. But in Nigeria, it's quite peculiar because one, ethnicity plays a pivotal role. Religion plays massive role in your choice of principal and, of course, the complementing vice or deputy. So I want to believe clearly that the reason why you have that language placement also good is because they probably, like I mentioned before, have not exhausted the potentials and the choice of the candidates they want to pick. So they don't want to just pick someone that it might be difficult to persuade to say, okay, we're putting you here, but please sign this document in advance. Which is why that's the cynical angle where it
will be the case.
But you see, at the end of the day, look at the issue of the Labour Party candidate. He's from the southeast. Within Nigeria, you cannot choose somebody from the southwest to be your vice presidential candidate and expect to win. It's not possible.
Okay, let's put a pin in that. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, this very, very interesting conversation continues on Daily Politics. Do stay with us.
Every patriotic Nigerian should hear this. Any politician who means well for the people will never allow themselves or their supporters to engage in any violent, destructive activities. No politician who truly wants to serve the people and develop the nation will encourage his followers to destroy properties or take human lives before, during, or after the elections. The Nigerian public must watch out for these traits and isolate any politician who encourages supporters to engage in violence. No genuine politician or patriot will cause trouble and seek to destroy the very society which they aspire to lead or develop. Politicians who have the good of the people at heart will not allow themselves or their followers to engage in violence, destruction of properties, and then taking of lives. Be vigilant. By their words you shall know them. Shun violence. Stay away from politicians who want you to do so. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NORA.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we are discussing the issue of placeholders in our Nigerian politics as it is right now. And before we went on that break, Mr. Manuel, you're making a point of how we can achieve a particular balance when it comes to these tickets and how it is peculiar to Nigeria, Nigeria's peculiar state, and how it is. And just like you said, the bottom line is about winning.
Yes.
How can you get a ticket that can win?
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, I'm taking it from the background that Nigeria. We've always used the word nascent democracy. So this is the 23rd year.
Yes, 23rd
of civilian to civilian rule, and this is our 60th year as a nation. 65 or 66? I've lost count, really. So over 60 years as a nation, 23 years civilian to civilian democratic, supposed democratic rule. So far so good. Like my brother mentioned, the challenge here is that we learn from each administration or successive administration. So you had a ticket of President Olusegun Obasanjo and, of course, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. however you look at it, these were strong personalities. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar ran for president in 1992.
Exactly.
At the time, 1992, the President Olusegun Obasanjo was languishing in Yola prison. He stepped down for Abiola, who is the presumed winner of the 1993 election. After him was President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua of blessed memory, one of the fantastic presidents Nigeria has ever had. He had Goodluck Jonathan as his running mate. Cool, calm, calculated gentlemen, both. You could say Yar'Adua was a very strong character, but with a very quiet and mean personality. Jonathan, you couldn't place him here or there because he was more or less new within the polity at the time. And he didn't sort of have he didn't come from any known political structure, unlike Atiku Abubakar, who was in charge of the People's Democratic Movement at the time. What was the name? I can't remember what PDM group and all that. Then, of course, you have Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, who was also from the left wing of that PDM. Then, in Umaru Musa Yar'Adua died, then, of course, by sheer faith, Goodluck became acting president and president. Then he chose Namadi Sambo, who was the governor. You know, so gentlemen, of course, as well. And you couldn't also place the two personalities because they were sort of new within the political landscape of Nigeria. Then, of course, you had Muhammadu Buhari, whom Nigerians have known from 1984 when he was head of state. Then, of course, the counter-coup that removed him. Strong personality with strong stance on corruption. You know, so he was known clearly. We had a cult following within the northern Nigeria. All he needed was just a little acceptance within the southern Nigeria for him to become the president. And luckily for him, in 2015, he got it. When he was able to create a balance, you know, there was that handshake between the north and the south. Why did I go this memory lane? The imperative of having a proper handshake across the northern Nigeria and the southern Nigeria can never be overemphasized. Therefore, the reason why every political party that has put forward a presidential candidate must tread with caution. Because if you take it for granted, you will lose woefully. And if you also take a cursory look at what is going on today, the youth of Nigeria today are, all of a sudden, they've woken up from their slumber. It's not going to be business as usual. We may not have the usual 40 million votes at the end of the presidential election. We might probably get 70 million votes at the end, or if not more. So today we have about 90-something million registered voters. Hopefully, if INEC works according to plan and everybody is able to vote, or 80% of the people are able to vote, if technology does not disturb us, we may have an upset this time around if they play their cards properly. So that handshake between the South and the North is very critical.
I couldn't help but notice the broad smile when you actually mentioned that we could actually have an upset. But let's expand on that.
Okay.
Now, how important it is, because he mentioned something about political structure. How important is that to the success or otherwise of a political party or a particular candidate? We're talking about we have some strong opposition, coming up, a new party, and the NMPP, the Labour Party. But how, when you talk about juggernauts now, the APC and the PDP, you don't really necessarily have to question their structure, but how important is structure to these other parties coming up right now? Can they be able to have the structure to produce the kind of upset he's talking about?
Short answer, no. And it's simply because of the nature of our electoral laws and the requirements to win.
Okay.
You need to have not just a simple majority, but
a spread.
25% in 2/3 of the states. And if you don't have that national spread, you are not able to win, even if you get a simple majority. Even if, for instance, you get a simple majority from the South. If you don't have 2/3, 25% across the nation, then you cannot be declared president. And it's that requirement for national spread that makes, I understand the excitement. As a Democrat, it gladdens the heart to see young people engage in the democratic process in a manner I haven't seen since maybe 1999, when we're looking to push out, since 1993, when we're looking to put out the military. This is really the first time you've seen a coherent, organized youth movement looking to not only get involved in the process, but specifically deliver a candidate. So it's encouraging. Why I sort of urge caution is you don't want people to get, build up their expectations so high, and when it doesn't turn out, they feel the process or democracy has let them down, and then they turn away from the process. It was the same type of thing that happened, I think, in some of the protests we've had, where you don't really get the outcome you want immediately, and you see people pulling away from engaging in civil society, for instance. So it's like I said, in short, it's not possible.
Okay.
It's not possible.
Even in a situation whereby they succeed in what they're trying to do right now, because they're trying to form like a political Voltron, everybody's coming together. Can they actually put their own structures together to form one major structure and then challenge?
Politicians want to win.
Okay.
And politicians, I hope they'll forgive me, we're like rats. We know when a ship is sinking. And you see politicians who have issues with, for instance, APC, they flock to the next most viable party, which is the PDP.
Okay.
You see politicians in the PDP, when we have issues with them and they leave, they go to, most of them will go to the APC. Because politicians, like I said, want to win. There isn't any arrangement I've seen or any discussions I've seen that are going to allow Labour or NNPP achieve a simple majority and 2/3 and 25% in 2/3 of the states by any alliance they are currently having. It's not possible. And when you hear figures about voter turnout, 90 million, I was speaking earlier off camera that the problem Labour will face is a logistics problem. Is the enthusiasm there? Absolutely. Do they have a lightning rod candidate who is competent? Absolutely. But, INEC is registering on average, I think I did the projection, about 1.6 million new registrants a month. Okay. They've extended it by 2 months. You are not able to get 60 million or 70 million new registrants for one candidate in the time limit, in the time left. And the APC will hold their base. They will hold their 14, 15 million. And the PDP will hold our base. Or, and this is the concern I have, or we'll have that vote split by the new entrants.
Exactly.
So you end up with...
So they could cause a disruption.
They could cause... So you end up with a situation where you see NNPP or Labour become the face of the opposition. But it's never going to be enough to overthrow or to oust the ruling party. And that's my concern. I'm a PDP member. If we are looking to really move things forward, we have to sit down at the table at some time and to say, away from ambitions and egos, if we share a common cause to move Nigeria forward and get away from the APC, then we need to work together to achieve that.
All right. So he made mention of something. He made mention of a sinking ship. And when the ship is sinking, the rats actually find their way off it. We've seen a gale of defections from a particular party after the primary elections. Is that a sign?
No, it's not a sign.
Okay.
I think also as a PDP, as a strong PDP, I mean, you can tell.
He couldn't hide it.
He's a party man.
He couldn't hide it.
It's just like my dear brother who has some challenge in UK mentioned online sometime last week that the candidate of Labour Party will not be voted for by people from the southeast because of whatever reason he adduced. He's just one man. And he forgot that he couldn't even get the ticket of the governorship candidate of the same party that he's talking about. The people didn't want him.
Okay.
Now, the same people that didn't want you, you are speaking for them, that they will not vote in a particular way. You see, that's one of the problems I have with politicians. They are very good at grandstanding. You know, they have the best proverbial, you know, innuendos to describe any situation or circumstance. And politicians don't like to change, and they don't like change. What is happening in Nigeria today, it will be very unfortunate for APC and PDP not to smell the coffee.
Okay.
I was in a room where, you know, some governors, both APC and PDP, they were there. You know, some governors today are civil society members before they became governors. And they had serious concern. And the numbers don't lie. Before we even began to notice the, you know, the push by, you know, young people to register, young people have been registering. They've been registering. Before the craze, you know, for people to call themselves, you know, like Governor Obaseki said that, you know, people are no longer talking about APC or PDP, that they are talking about one particular party that where they belong. And it's not even a political party. It's a movement.
Okay.
For me, this is one of the problems PDP had and why they lost the 2015 election. Because when you see the same ship he's talking about that is sinking, you assume that is the other ship that is sinking. But not knowing that it's your ship that is sinking, just like Titanic, where they say even God cannot sink Titanic. And unfortunately, you do not contest with God. You know, so the reality is that Nigerians are tired. Young people in Nigeria can't get jobs. They can't travel along the road. The trains are now unsafe. They can't live in their houses and be safe. They can't even feed. There's no petrol. There's no gas. There's no diesel. It looks like nothing is working. What do you think the young people will do? Definitely they will take their destiny in their own hands. So structure is important, but structures are built by human beings.
Okay. Well, let's still come back. Let's
Yes.
still come back to what I asked earlier. To talking about the sinking ship now. Gale of defections trailed the APC's primaries.
Yes.
And in addition to all of that, the inability for them to actually give the impression that they do have their house in order by bringing out a proper running mate for their presidential candidate. You still don't see those as being signs pointing to something?
One of the reasons why I said that the gale of defection is really not a major challenge per se, even though, yes, there is no political party that will see senators, you know, who ran under their I don't want to use the word umbrella, under their
platform.
under their platform,
yes.
under their platform, then all of a sudden, out of disaffection or disagreement, decide to move to another political party. It smacks of danger coming, because if they get the majority and they decide to change the leadership in the Senate, something can happen. They can remove the president.
Exactly.
And they can change a whole lot of things. So any political party that sees that and decides not to act must be living in I don't even know the word, maybe living in another planet. So that's why that concern must be there. But the issue you must understand is that some people were elected as a result of certain political gladiator.
Okay.
Not because the particular individual is has electoral value. You know, because if you ask a lot of those people who are senators today and House of Reps members to go to their constituency, they can't go. The people don't want them again. They want another set of people. That is one of the things I'm trying to explain today, that things are changing. The complacency and I don't care or it doesn't matter syndrome that Nigeria used to live with in 1999, 2003, 7, 11, 15, 19, is not the same again. Nigerians want governance now. So they're interested in every part of this country. to be filled with competent people. That's why, if you even ask the candidate of the PDP why he chose why he made the choice of his running mate, he will tell you it's about competence. True or false?
True.
It's about competence. And you are talking about competence that will win you votes, competence that will make people believe that, oh, we think these people are able to deliver. That is one of the reasons why people who won 4 years ago believe that once they get the ticket, they win again. It's not true. This time around, it's not just the card reader, it's Beavers, the bimodal video assistant system, voting system. So people must understand that if your face does not show, you will not vote.
Bimodal voter accreditation, accreditation system.
You will not vote. You will not vote. So there will be no incident from this time around. So we may not even see the 1 million votes that we used to see in certain locations anymore. Yeah.
All right. So we're gradually running out of time, but I'll be remiss if I do not ask this. If I don't ask this. Now, we've talked about a lot of issues. Placeholder issue, INEC not recognizing placeholder. What exactly is a placeholder in the first place? We talked about all those issues. And we've also talked about the youth movement. What does that portend in general terms now? What do we expect? What kind of impact do we have all these to have on the 2023 general elections for all parties now? We're talking about APC, PDP, Labour, all these across board. What kind of effect will these issues have on the election for these parties?
I think it's very clear that what we will see happen, and you already are seeing candidates starting to speak to these issues, is that parties and candidates will realize that the decider of the 2023 elections is going to be the youth.
Okay.
And so they are going to have to address youth issues. We have 42.5%, I think, youth unemployment today. So candidates are going to talk about how they have either created jobs in the past or are going to create jobs in future. Whether it's education, we know ASU is on strike. Candidates are going to talk about how they're going to transform our educational sector and every other sector or segment that resonates with the young people. Typically, it would have just been adjusting for power. Are you representing the North or the South? Are you representing Christians or Muslims? But I think this time, because the youth are showing that they are ready and engaged and are going to be active players in this election, candidates are going to have to speak to them. So we're going to see a campaign and manifestos tailored to seducing young voters. And again, like I said, it's an amazing thing for our democracy. I think my candidates with their tickets and pedigrees, we don't have any substantive or placeholder candidates, with their records, have shown that they are already willing and able to speak to these issues. I think I recall just before we came on, I saw that Okowa, for instance, had grown his economy, non-oil economy by almost 50%, had attracted the most FDI, bar any state but Lagos. So that he can create jobs. Atiku also has a record as an economist, an economic performer. He opened up the economy when he was chairman of the National Economic Council under Obasanjo. And we saw between 1999 and 2007, probably Nigeria's most glorious period. And it sort of is encouraging that, again, just speaking on youth issues, we have people who have shown that they can create jobs, who have shown that education is a priority to them, and who have shown that the issues of young people matter to them as well.
All right, you seem to be agreeing with most of what he's saying.
Yeah, I agreed to the extent where he talked about the youth being the decider of 2023, because that's what I've been trying to explain. Because the truth is that the 2023 election is going to be completely different from what we were used to.
Okay.
And I must tell you the truth that underrate the Labour candidate to your own detriment.
Okay.
Because preponderance of the youths who are out there campaigning for him, he's already giving serious concern to even the PDP and the APC.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, every political
Somebody
party,
might have something different to say about that.
all the supporters of the other political parties are now attacking the Labour Party candidate as if he's the ruling party, unfortunately. But the reality is that the young man, distinguished himself, in his personal journey as a businessman. He also distinguished himself as a governor for 8 years. He's been very consistent when he consistently talks about cutting costs of governance. And we know that that's one of the biggest challenges we have in Nigeria, cutting cost of governance.
At least I was able to get you to agree on half. But it's not completely, at least you guys were able to agree on half of it. So I think my job here is done. so that's with that, we're going to wrap up today's program. And always do remember to get your PVC if you haven't gotten it. It is quite important. Gentlemen, I would really like to thank you. It has been a very engaging discussion and got a lot of insights. I wish I had more time so that we can delve into other issues.
Yes.
But unfortunately, this is how we're going to wrap it up. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for coming on.
It was a pleasure, Ibrahim.
All right. So just as I was saying, do remember to get your PVC to vote for a better Nigeria. Thank you for staying with us, and do join us again on Daily Politics. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.